In March 2026, Pierre L. Dowles Jr. filed the paperwork for a new business in San Diego, California. He named it Loan and Concrete LLC. The name is a deliberate metaphor for his family's journey. Concrete stands for the modern, built environment of urban California, where the family now resides. Loam, that dark, rich, fertile soil, represents their ancestral roots deep in the American South and the Caribbean. Digging into that loam reveals an incredibly intricate web of heritages. The Dowles family tree is a dense convergence of Louisiana Creole, Haitian, Cherokee, Blackfeet, Irish, and African American bloodlines. Tracing a lineage with this specific, multi-layered identity requires stepping outside standard genealogical databases. You have to look at how American institutions actively tried to erase these exact types of blended families from the historical record. Mapping a family tree backward hits the 1870 brick wall, the first census recording formerly enslaved Black Americans by name. Before 1870, tracing enslaved ancestors means searching property ledgers. Human beings were reduced to anonymous tallies, counted alongside livestock. Decades later, the Jim Crow era compounded this erasure. Southern states enforced a strict black and white racial binary, completely dismissing the nuanced reality of Afro-Indigenous families. Because state and federal mechanisms mandated this erasure, traditional paperwork hits a dead end. Researchers have to look elsewhere, hunting through church vaults, maritime shipping routes, and the defiant oral histories passed down by families themselves. Looking at the maternal side, the Moore and Comer lines trace deeply into the agrarian landscape of southeastern Alabama. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the American Southeast was a highly porous frontier. Poor Irish immigrant laborers, enslaved Africans, and remnant indigenous populations often lived and worked side by side on the social periphery, inevitably forming integrated communities. The family's oral history specifically notes Cherokee and Blackfoot ancestry. In Southern genealogy, the term Blackfoot rarely refers to the Plains tribe of Montana. Instead, it is a local colloquialism used throughout the Southeast to describe people of mixed African and Native American descent, or displaced Eastern tribes. If these indigenous individuals did not live on a recognized federal reservation, state governments legally stripped them of their tribal identities, reclassifying them simply as colored on all census and tax documents. The state's paper trail effectively wiped out their native heritage. The only reason the Dowles family retains their indigenous identity today is because defiant grandmothers and family matriarchs refuse to stop telling their own stories. The family archives also hold a highly unusual geographic claim. Maternal grandfather R.Z. Thrasher and great-grandmother Annie Bell Woods were pure Haitian immigrants who ended up settling in rural Alabama. While modern Haitian migration usually centers on Miami or New York, the early 20th century saw intense political instability during the U.S. occupation of Haiti. This created a specific maritime labor corridor, pushing Caribbean migrants toward Gulf Coast ports like Mobile. Arriving as a Haitian immigrant in the segregated South, bearing a French or Creole name, was incredibly dangerous. To survive and secure work, many immigrants engaged in extreme phonetic Anglicanization, adopting local, recognizable Anglo-Saxon surnames like Thrasher and Woods to blend in. We see this assimilation continue into the next generation. Annie Bell Woods' sisters eventually left Alabama for Cleveland, Ohio, migrating north to escape Jim Crow violence and find industrial work. To navigate the hostility of the United States, this Caribbean bloodline masked its origins on paper, weaving itself directly into the macro-historical movement of the Great Migration. The paternal side of the family introduces an entirely different cultural landscape. Gloria Dowles' grandfather carried the name Mercier, which is a deeply historic surname in Louisiana that was later anglicized to Mercer. Unlike the rigid racial binary of Alabama, Louisiana operated under the Code Noir, or Black Code. This was a French colonial legal framework that officially recognized a three-tiered society: white populations, enslaved individuals, and a distinct middle class of free people of color. The Merciers belonged to this middle class, historically known as the gens de couleur libres. They were a distinct, French-speaking, property-owning enclave in New Orleans with their own formalized social societies. Tracing this line means bypassing the English census takers who routinely misspelled or altered Francophone names. The actual records lie in the untranslated sacramental registers of the Catholic Church. By deciphering baptism and marriage logs written in localized French and Spanish, investigators can circumvent the American bureaucracy and recover the original Creole identity. This map illustrates the geographic scale of the Dowles lineage. From Haiti, Ireland, the Appalachian Cherokee territories, and France, these bloodlines converged in the Deep South, before a single descendant line traveled westward to San Diego, California. Which brings us back to Pierre L. Dowles Jr. and the formation of Loam and Concrete LLC. The name on the LLC paperwork operates as a monument. It recognizes the survival of the Mercier, Comer, Thrasher, and Moore lines against centuries of economic displacement and forced assimilation. Systemic racism and institutional silences actively attempted to erase multi-ethnic families from the American record. Yet the truth survives in Catholic vaults, maritime shipping logs, and the resolute voices of the people who lived it.